Welcome back to the Dark Rating News Desk here at Black Hat USA in Las Vegas. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Noopur Davis, Executive Vice President of Comcast Corporation, CISO and Product Privacy Officer with Comcast Cable. She is joined by her colleague Matthew Tharp, Head of Field Engineering with DataB, Comcast Technology Solutions. Noopur and Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you doing News Desk.
Thank you for having us.
Noopur, let's start with you. I'm curious if we could just set some context first. Please describe the specific challenge that big data in particular creates for both security leaders and their teams.
Yeah, the challenge is really just in the amount of data, and that the data lives in silos. So security teams are really, really good at buying a lot of tools. And just like everybody else, we have literally 100+ tools.
Sure.
And all of them are generating data. We have literally millions of sensors deployed in our ecosystem. And the problem is, how do you bring all of that data together in a way that it makes sense, that it relates to each other and tells you the story and answers the questions that you have of that data. So that was our problem. We had lots of data, not a good way of making sense out of that data.
It sounds like the volume issue that so much of the industry is struggling with.
It's not just the volume issue, it's the silo issue. So it's, you get data from one tool in its format, you get data from another tool in its format. Okay. How do you bring all of it together and say, hey, if I look at what this tool is telling me, combine it with all of the other information that I'm getting, I suddenly get new insights that I've never seen before.
Okay, that's a great distinction. How has Comcast gone about trying to solve this issue?
So we spent 3 years building a data fabric, and that is now being brought to market as DataB. And the data fabric basically has 3 functions. One is to get rid of those silos, to bring data together through transformation, through normalization, through just doing all kinds of ETL, ELT, all kinds of work on that data to make it usable. So destroy the silos, set the data free, that's one. The second is to make that data usable by multiple personas. So it could be your GRC team, or it could be your threat hunter. And then the third is to be able to govern that data. And by governance, you mean everything from retention to who has access to what the cost is to bring all of, so those 3 things: eliminate the silos, make it available for multiple personas, and then make sure that you have proper governance on it. That is what DataB helps you do.
Wow, just a few items on the checklist there. That's impressive.
Very important, yes.
Matt Tharp, let's bring you into this. Comcast isn't exactly a household name at Black Hat, and you're a bit of a new face here. So welcome. Tell us a bit about your role at Comcast and what prompted the organization to have a presence here at Black Hat this year.
Yeah, so first of all, we appreciate the opportunity to be here because this is a practitioner conference.
Sure.
Right? And that's what we have. That's what Comcast has, is practitioners. And those practitioners have built a tool under Noopur's leadership, and now we want to take that and help other companies. So this is the first time that we've been here, but Comcast has been in the cybersecurity space for a while. Just the first time that we've been able to come here as a vendor.
Excellent. Well, let's dive into a bit more about what the security data fabric is and how this approach is different, possibly better than security information event management, or other efforts that we hear about that consolidate security tools. Does the security data fabric solution replace the SIEM, complement it? What's the perspective there?
Yeah, so it is complementary, right? The idea is you are taking a bunch of the pieces that you can get from your SIEM, right? But you're putting it alongside things that you can't easily get into a SIEM, like
Sure.
business context, organization hierarchy. Things that can land in a data lake very easily are immensely useful to our practitioners, but we haven't been able to find a good way to get it into our traditional security tools so far.
Does it start to shake loose the silo effect that Noopur was referring to earlier? Do you see that sort of breaking up that bottleneck?
Absolutely. I mean, a very So a SIEM is part of the fabric, right? It's an integral, important part of the fabric, as is the lake, as are all of the other things that we talked about. But to Matt's example, you don't want your entire company to have access to your SIEM.
Of course.
But for in a fabric, you can do that. You can start saying this part of the fabric is restricted to this set of personas. And look, I can now start opening up this rich data. This is not anymore in a silo to those personas across the organization, right? And that's what is the real key to setting this data free.
So if we're creating like a Venn diagram,
Yep.
We've got the security data fabric here, we've got a data lake here. How does it look? How much do they intersect? What do those intersected pieces look like? If so, can you take a crack at that?
Yeah, so I'd liken it to sort of like that ETL process, right? So you're going to take the data from somewhere. You're going to do all that beautiful ETL logic, that transformation, the normalization, the flattening. Then you land it in said data lake. Then at that point, now it opens up all those use cases that Noopur and team have worked on so much. That's sort of the place where they overlap is really in the landing of the data and then the use of the data, right? So getting the data, using the data.
Okay. What's the customer response been so far? What's the reaction when they hear about this idea of a security data fabric addressing the big data challenges?
Yeah, I'll start. So the reason that we are taking this to market, by the way, we're taking this to market through a part of Comcast that does this for other Comcast capabilities, right?
I see.
So we build capabilities for ourselves, and this business unit takes it to market. Never done this with cyber. But when I talk to fellow CISOs about what we're building, and we all share, there's no competition in security. We got a lot of interest. Hey, can you help us do this? Hey, can I see what you've built? And it's that interest that really was the reason for this to be, for us to take this to market.
Yeah, I'd say that we're seeing the same thing when we go and we take those conversations. There's a lot of interest. One, because people have been hindered from getting that in their own orgs, just as Shiva described. Other companies have that same problem. And so us helping out with a been there, done that at that scale, people are very interested in going, oh, then now I'm confident I could make use of that too.
And that is a really important point, is that this is working at Comcast scale. So it's literally like our data lake is 10 petabytes of security data, right?
Everyone is struggling, of course, with data volumes and the silo effect that you were describing earlier. That being said, do you see this solution particularly well suited for similarly situated service providers like Comcast?
So our target right now is Fortune 500 kind of companies, and of course, our ambitions are that we can take it much beyond that. But Matt?
Yeah, so I'll say I've wanted a tool like this in my history as a threat hunter previously, right?
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity to go down market as well to cover some of these scenarios, but yes, companies with that scale, that's really where it's game changing, I'd say.
Right.
And that's really, I think, a plus for us, is we have shown that this can work at this scale. So a lot of companies, will start small and it works small, but then it's very hard to scale it. So we are starting at scale and then hoping that we'll be able to take it, make it work for smaller use cases.
What do you suggest to potential customers who are considering this sort of data fabric approach? What kinds of things should they be asking themselves?
Always, we start with the problem. What are the issues that you are facing today?
Sure.
And we almost always come down to a use case that, the data fabric supports. So it could be a GRC use case. Hey, my controls are out of date the minute I put them in the spreadsheet for my audit, right? So, so that use case too, I can't tell when I first saw an indicator of compromise in my ecosystem, right? So very different problem cases, problem areas, but the kind of problems that the fabric will help you address. But we always start with what is your problem, and then, okay, this is how the fabric can help solve.
Right. Well, Noopur and Matt, an auspicious debut at Black Hat. Thank you so much for joining us on the Dark Reading News Desk today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
Appreciate the
us.
time.
We've been talking to Noopur Davis and Matt Tharp of Comcast. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. See you next time.